So I have an analogy that I use. And I was living in New York City for a year, working in a hotel property. And I watched for a long time. I was so tired. We had 5 restaurants on the property, and you just get tired of eating in the same 5 restaurants. And there was a store front across the street that was, it said coming soon, and then, you know, the restaurant, and they had another location uptown, which was really phenomenal. So we were all excited. The office staff was really excited that we would have that right across the street. And I use the analogy of that our existence is like this restaurant. We get real excited about it, the concept of it. We called over to find out if we could make reservations, and they said, well, we open in 6 weeks, but we have a waiting list already. We have people that have called ahead. It's probably going to be a couple of months before we can seat you. And, you know, we were all kind of shocked at that, but we all put our names down. We all got reservations. And it was so interesting because as the date approached, you know, I was making sure that I looked spiffy, and you know, it was this whole thing of really this moment, we were going to have this experience. And we got in there, and the maitre d' took us to the table. It was like the best table for us in the restaurant. Then the maitre d' went down the list of things and welcomed us and gave us a menu. And that whole experience was so effortless, such a lovely time. And there was one person who came into the restaurant in flip-flops, a short, and a t-shirt. And you could tell right away he felt out of place. He himself felt out of place. So instead of going, you know what, I'll come back on a different date, I'll make new reservations, it's obvious that this is a high-end restaurant, and I'd like to be in a proper attire, I'd like to be appropriate. Instead of doing that, he immediately took offense to the fact that it was different and that he was underdressed. And then nothing worked for him, in that he didn't like the table they had taken him to, so they took him in another. It was like this constant argument in this restaurant. And then we kind of listened, and he ordered something, and then somebody brought a plate of food to another table, and he said, he called the waiter, shouted out for the waiter, and said, no, 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 cancel what I asked. I want that. That looks like what I want. So it was this constant struggle for this person. And I've used this analogy where we really are here to command what we want. We have a menu, and we command what we want from that menu. We don't need to know the cook's name, don't need to know the maitre-d''s name, don't need any other information, except we are here to command. You know, a lot of people think if they knew the cook personally, they'd get a better meal. It's not true. You don't need to know every one of your guides' names for them to be working for you at the optimum level. You don't need to know your avatar. You don't need to know the angelic beings that support you, the strong angels. Basically, you're here to command. You're here to order off the menu. If you have a conflict, if you're conflicted, then that's going to be your issue. That's what everything will turn around, is that conflict or that series of conflicts. So anyway. Anybody else?
Yep.
Okay.
Gary, I would love to hear you elaborate more on joining thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
I get it and I don't get it,
Okay.
even though I
So,
know how important it is.
right. So, so where do you think thoughts come from?
Mind.
Okay. They're within your mind.
Okay.
Um, so if you look out the window and you see the sunset, you have a feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and that feeling inspires a thought. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So most people think that they have a thought that then induces a feeling, but every thought you've ever had started as a feeling, not the other way around. But what we're trained to do, uh, like I remember I was a little kid and I hurt myself and I was crying, and my stepfather slapped me on the back of the head and said, "Stop crying, you little girl." You know, and I can remember feeling this pain and having the thought of wanting somebody to somehow, you know, make that better. And so he was saying, don't think about it. Don't focus on your pain. You know, don't focus on your feeling. You know, be a man. You know, and so we are trained, most of us, to separate our feeling from our thought. I fell in love with this girl in elementary school. I mean, I was totally enamored. And she was a grade ahead of me. And I told her my feelings. And she said, "You really don't feel that. You don't feel that way." And it was shocking to me that somebody would tell me what it was that I was feeling. And you know, that goes on a lot in our lives, where we're told that, no, you don't feel that way. You really don't feel that way. If you think about it, you really don't feel that way. We are taught to keep our feelings and our thoughts separate, to not bring them together, because if we bring our thoughts and feelings together, we are called into some form of action. We are called to express that in a completeness, at a complete level. And that's why poets and musicians and artists are so important, because the feeling and the thought comes out as an expression of, yeah.
Gary,
Yeah.
if as a therapist, this is interesting to me because I usually tell people that their thinking creates their feeling. And now to hear you say that it's the opposite, that the feelings create the thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, what do I do with that?
Well, well, the issue is,
So that just like exploded a little bit. That's it.
yeah, so if you really look at your life, you really see that feelings are really what drives your whole experience. Your feeling inspires feeling, but then, you know, we're trained not to connect the thought and the feeling, and it's the opposite of that. It's we, in order to feel complete and whole, and to command and to be powerful in command, we can't be divided. We can't have one aspect of ourselves that we are trying to have not relate to the other aspect of ourselves. So, yeah, Freud was wrong on a lot of things. Jung got a lot right. Skinner was lost in a bunch of Skinnerisms. But anyway, what do you think about it? Do you think this would help people that you're working with in a different way?
That's what I'm beginning to wonder. Do I need to shift what I'm teaching? The other thing that I'm looking at is it ever possible that our thinking can lead to us feeling a certain way? Because when I'm looking at what people are thinking, and then I say, well, what kind of feelings would you have when you're thinking that way? Or I know more people identify with their feel, at least the ones who are showing up in my practice, identify with their feelings, and then I'll back them into their thinking to say, okay, then what type of thoughts would have you feel that way, so that they can then begin to look at what they're thinking. For me to realize that for me to begin to look at, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe my feelings are generating my thoughts. Because I say your feelings give you, your thoughts give you your feelings give you your behavior, and your behavior give you your results. So if you change your thinking, you'll get a different results, versus change how you feel, and that'll give you a different result. But I can see how they interplay, and I think that's what I'm struggling with. Is this a hen and the egg, the chicken and the egg, which came first? Do my feelings come first and then my thinking, or are my thinking coming first, or can it depend? Or so,
Well,
where I am right now.
you could have a series of thoughts that would begin to rise energy, begin to pull energy up, and would then begin to have a series of feelings.
Yeah.
That's true. But the original thought for that was inspired by a feeling.
Yeah, and that's where, so someone is sitting in front of me and they're saying, I feel that the people around me abandon me. Right? Like everyone leaves me. So a part of that is a thought, everyone leaves me, but then the other part is the feeling, lonely.
So when
So
you,
I can see, if I begin to break it down, because that's what I haven't done, is analyze it from the feeling first, to say your feelings is generating your thinking. And so that means I got to go back and redo what I've been saying.
yeah. Well, in the process of mystical behavior, it's feeling, thought, word, action.
Feeling, thought, word, action. Let me write that down.
So
Okay.
the feeling drives the thought, thought drives words, words drive action.
Okay.
So that's the mystical mindset.
Thank you.
Yeah. So again, it goes, let's kind of go back a little bit. I'm going to mute, I need to mute somebody because I'm getting an echo. Echo. Thank you. Ritual. Everything we do is ritual, including our feelings and our thoughts. It's if your senses detect something, then a feeling begins to emerge through that observation. And then that's where we begin to ritualize how we experience our feelings and our thoughts. And so the shifting of the mindset is being able to look at yourself very clearly. If you see that the world is not you, if you see that something in the world is not of you, then there's a division that's taking place. And you'll begin to ritualize your feelings and your thoughts around that. So it's real important, self-knowledge is so critical to releasing delusion. And most people on earth suffer delusion, and it's the delusion that was generated from their early training, the first 7 years of their life. We form a delusion that best allows us to interact with other people, is basically our socialized mind. And so we ritualize feelings and thoughts in the same way we would ritualize how we, get prepared for the day in the morning, or anything else. A lot of people I know go the thing of trying to resolve the past and also rehearsing the future. Well, resolving the past and rehearsing the future has absolutely no value to your experience, and it takes an enormous amount of energy that you then don't have to create or to manifest or command from. So staying focused in the now, staying fully here in the present, is where this all really begins to take place. And that's where the thought and the feeling are one expression, where your threefold being is acting as a single being, instead of your body wanting chocolate ice cream, your spirit saying no, every time you do that you gain weight, and your soul going, come on guys, we have a lot of work to do. So when we can express ourselves as a complete being, we have what we want when we want it. We either manifest it directly or we attract it to us directly. And then we begin to understand another thing. Expectation is what controls our ability to perceive our mind. And our mind, and when I say our mind, I'm meaning everything you experience as an external is your mind. So our expectations, again, from the first 7 years, that information has gone subconscious to us. It dwells in our subconscious, which is our creative dynamic. But our expectations begin to alter even what our senses can perceive. You see what you expect to see, and that's a ritualized feeling thought. You hear what you expect to hear, again, ritualized. It's all around expectation. Our expectations are the foundation of our rituals that we perform within ourselves. So when we don't want to take full credit for something, I'm going to say full credit instead of responsibility. When we don't want to take full credit for the expression of our life, and expectation is a great place to hide out. Well, I didn't expect it to come. I asked for it, but I didn't really expect it. I want wealth, but I really don't want the problem of having to manage money. And I don't think I could trust anyone else to manage it for me, so I'm kind of stuck. I want to win the lottery, but if I win the lottery, I don't want to have to be worried about the money. These kind of really weird things begin to happen around our expectations. And expectation drives the ritual, drives the mindset, and it exploits the conflicts. Wholeness. In this age of unity, if there is division within yourself, then you will have less and less and less of an experience that you want, because you'll begin to manifest the conflict as opposed to the wholeness. You'll manifest the very thing you don't want. There's a lot of power on the planet right at this moment. Enormous amounts of power. And you can see this enormous division that's happening.
Excuse me, Gary. Would you
Yeah.
repeat that?
Huh?
Would you repeat what you just said about the manifesting?
Yeah, when, let me see if I can. So, so let's say, can everybody see this? Let's say this is you, that's your physical body, right? Can you see it? Let's see.
Yes.
I see it. I can see
Okay.
it.
Okay, so this is your physical body, and you have all around you these layers of energy that are outside the physical. They're not a part of your core energy. They're outside the physical. So let's say you have a thought and a feeling that's combining. Thoughts, if we could assign a energy label to thought, it's electric. It's electric. If we then assign a definition of the energy to feeling, we say it's magnetic. It's like the universe, electromagnetic. So when you command this will center, when you push that energy out, it has to go through these layers. And it comes back to you not looking like what you wanted, but comes back to you looking like the layers it had to go through. Does that? Did I do good?
Yeah.
And Gary,
Yes.
that would be more true now than ever.
Say it again.
Would that be more true now than ever?
Absolutely.
Yes.
The reason why it's more true now than ever is if you look at the transition wave between cycles is 1,000 years thick. We crossed the midpoint and the 10 years between 2001 and 2011. We crossed the midpoint. Now we are in the unity cycle, basically. If you look at what began to happen in the transition 500 years ago on the planet, look what began to happen with human consciousness. We saw Renaissance. We saw this enormous explosion in enlightenment and in kind of understanding that our place in the universe we weren't the center of everything. We were a part of something. When you really look at what began to happen 500 years ago, and the 500 years prior to that was like a dark age. Well, the 500 years from now, from the center, from 2001 and 2011, the next 500 years are going to be an explosion of profound understanding of not just how the mind and body work together as an expression, but how the mind literally determines the effect of the body. That disease is within the mind, and it expresses out through the body. When we really begin to see what this new cycle brings, it's going to be astounding. The next 30 years is just going to be mind-blowing for people. The last 20 years have been pretty mind-blowing. So,
Gary, I have a question.
sure.
So these layers, what are these layers that are like this? When you explained in what you just draw,
Mm-hmm.
layer where the thought have to come back, like the manifestation, what are these layers that have to go through?
This layer around us, like if you have an angry feeling, or you feel a conflict about something, and you keep energizing around that conflict, you keep thinking, you keep having a ritualized pattern of thinking and feeling around a certain thing, it begins to build a layer of energy around you. It begins to build what can only be described as like an onion, where you keep peeling back the layers of an onion. Each layer is a little different, but it's like that. It's very real energy. It's ethereoplasmic energy, but it's a non-matter matter, but it's still very, very real. And it affects everything that comes out of your mouth, actually.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And here's another secret to what's happening. So we have 21 chakras, 21 energy centers. We have 3 columns of 7. And the outer columns, one is a masculine, one is a feminine, one is a negative charge, one's a positive charge. And they relate through the core chakras of our body. Well, in between 2001 and 2010, something began to happen to humans energetically. And what that is that we had 3 chakras below and 3 chakras above, and the heart chakra mediated the energy of the lower with the upper. And there was this wonderful balance of this mediation that happened with the heart chakra. And, having that mediator really actually helped us evolve as humans. Well, when we entered this particular unity cycle, the heart is no longer the mediator. The throat now mediates, the throat chakra, the will center.
Wow.
So the 4 chakras below and the 2 above now all focus through the throat. And when you think of that, it's the will center, but it also is the voice.
Okay.
And so when you speak out, that's where your power is now. When you command, that's where your power is.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
So in Reiki work, of course, one of the main things they work with is that chokure, which is where you draw the energy through all 7 chakras, and then you draw it all around back to the heart where the energy was then transmuted.
Right.
So that's not going to work very effectively anymore, huh?
Well, there are certain rituals you can do with the chakra, like when you connect a thought or a feeling and a thought, and you really then focus on the heart chakra and energize the heart chakra, and then you direct that flow of energy down to the base chakra, and that's where a lot of our creative energy, the first 2 chakras, flow. And then you bring that energy back up from the base chakra into your throat. Then you have really effectively, you have energized the throat chakra in a heightened state. It's energized now anyway because it's the mediating chakra. But when you do that, when you energize the heart, bring it to the base, and then bring it up to the throat and speak out what you want, you have brought 1,000-fold energy to your command. So
that I
use the
feel like
chakra.
would be I 100% hear you and feel it, and know that I can work that for myself. But I have definitely spent quite a bit of time helping clients on my table be able to transmute some of their, those layers of conflict.
Sure.
And that conflicting vibration by bringing it to their heart. So I guess maybe that still works because we're
Sure.
not speaking. I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, the systems still work. Probably in about 30 years, I don't know the timing on it, but those columns, those 7 columns on either side are going to start to merge to the center column. And so what's going to happen is people will not eat anymore. They'll drink to lubricate the body, to give the body, the blood that takes chi to the rest of the body. That'll still function, but people will become basically breatharians when those 3 columns become one. And there are some people already experiencing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm totally ready for that. I just need to be done with cookies first.
Yes, yes. Mine thing is Rocky Road ice cream or Chunky Monkey.